The Craig Fahle Show on Deadline Detroit is sponsored by James Oliver Coffee Company at jamesolivercoffee.com. James Oliver is a second-generation family-owned and Detroit-based coffee roaster, offering 19 different blends of freshly roasted coffee. The company pioneered link temperature roasting, and they source the best beans from around the world to create an outstanding coffee experience, no matter which beans you choose. To start, try the Alma Mater blend. James Oliver Coffee gives $5 for each bag of its Alma Mater blend to the Detroit Public Schools Foundation. And don't forget, use the promo code CFSHOW, that's CFSHOW, to get 15% off your first order. James Oliver Coffee, available at select grocery stores in Metro Detroit and, of course, at jamesolivercoffee.com. Remember, use the promo code CFSHOW to get 15% off your first order. That's jamesolivercoffee.com.
Okay, and welcome to Happy Friday, the week that was, or as we are calling it this week, the last 18 hours that was. I'm Nancy Derringer, and you may have noticed that Craig Fahle is not here, and that is because he is under the weather, along with some other very famous people that we all know about. He does not have COVID, but he did not feel like he was up to it, and so he passed the baton to me. I'm Nancy Derringer, by the way, from Deadline Detroit. This is the week that was on Deadline Detroit. And I'd like to welcome my guests right now, starting, let's see, I don't know if everybody sees these squares in the same order that I am, but let's just say starting with the bald guy on one side of me. This is Joe Gleason. Joe Gleason, who is a local entrepreneur and our absolute newbie today. Next to him is Lex Kuhne, a writer, teacher, and recovering lawyer. Below him is local attorney Todd Perkins of the Perkins Law Group, a regular guest here, who I learned today once represented Floyd Mayweather Jr. Is that true, Todd? Wow.
It is.
Oh,
Great client.
Yes,
great
I'm
client.
sure he
I
is.
don't care what people think about him from a perspective of what his image is. Great client.
Okay, good. And a great fighter too, of course.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And directly below me, we have Violet, my colleague Violet Ikonomova, who has many vowels in her name and is our investigative reporter here at Deadline and a really wonderful person. So welcome to all of you. I think we have to get started because, man, we never are at a loss for things to talk about on Friday, but this Friday is going to be what we can't talk about because we're going to run out of time. So let's start with the 900-pound news gorilla in the room, which is President Superspreader. After months of mocking...
Who has dicey Wi-Fi?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
I'm going to move closer. I'm going to move closer to my Wi-Fi, so I'll be moving, so don't get seasick.
All right, you go move and we'll figure it out from there. For months now, the President of the United States has been mocking simple public health measures designed to curb the spread of COVID-19. And apparently this week, the chickens have been goosed. And the president has now tested positive, along with, seems like half the White House staff. Hope Hicks, his senior aide, RNC chairwoman Ronna, don't call me Ronna McDaniel, and of course his wife, Mrs. Trump, who always seems to be looking for another reason to despise him, and now she has. So anyway, obviously some huge questions present themselves here, and why don't we start, Lex, with you? What do you think this means for the election?
Well, I was wondering, if Trump having COVID is actually true, this would be the first time he's told us the truth about his health.
That's something that a lot of people, as the president likes to say, many people have been saying that they don't believe this story, that this is a cover story for him to get out of the next debates.
Yeah, the debates and the wife being, the wife hating Christmas and being Krampus. And, I don't want, fucking creepy, whatever. Anyway.
To believe that, though, we would have to believe that they were able to rope like the White House doctor into this. And, So because he wrote the letter, and
right. Hope Hicks was the first thing that fell. But I think it's the cherry on the top for his entire plan, which is to just play it out as long as possible and hope that he, pulls another inside straight and wins. This is, the whole thing was, I need to try to make as much money as possible and restart the company or restart the country in order to keep paying my bills. And I need to make America seem normal and give them bread and circuses so I can possibly win by getting back to sort of normalcy. And that, and if this is really the case, and if he's really sick and he really has to lock down for 10 to 14 days, he's toast, because everything blows up.
Right.
Everything becomes invalid. So,
anybody else want to jump in here?
I gotta jump in. I mean, this is awesome. So not awesome because as a Christian, I don't want to see anybody fall in ill health. I don't want to see anyone. I don't feel like, even as a lawyer, and all the lawyers can appreciate this, is that I don't win by denigrating and I'll demolish the other side. Don't get me wrong, but I don't have to win by throwing the rock and hide my hand and all that trickery and things like that. I'm just going to be good. I'm going to be excellent. I'm going to be I'm going to outmaneuver, and I'm going to just study my case. But as it relates to this, don't you get the feeling, God has a way with this. And as a Christian and as a spiritual person in the practice of law, I've become completely more spiritual than I was when I was 25 before I became a lawyer. And then the next year I was. But here's the thing. Don't you feel like this is almost the same thing as when John McCain said in September that the markets are fundamentally sound, and a couple of days later, the markets tumbled about 5,000 or 6,000 points? It's almost the same thing. I had looked at this like this, and I said, God has a way of writing the balance. And, my wife and I talk about this all the time because, he is just, in my opinion, systemically evil. He is I think he is a chaplain for the devil, so I really feel like that, he's not the devil, because I wouldn't give him that status, but this is it's phenomenal to me that it's happening. But again, I don't want him to die, but I don't want him to die because I think it hurts America.
But no, I don't think nobody wants him to die. I don't even want him to.
I don't know about that though. There's some people out there who've done the same thing that he's done and feel the same way he's done. Just like Proud Boys stand back and stand by. You know what I'm saying? I mean, what the hell is wrong with this guy?
I want him to heal up, because respirators really disrupt criminal trials.
Yeah.
So.
No, there's other people that need respirators, so more than him. So I'd like that to be available, but. No, we don't want that. Look at the markets tumbling. I feel so bad for people.
But I think if he heals quickly, that is a real concern for us as a population. He will say, "Oh, this isn't that serious of a virus. Reopen everything. I'm no longer providing assistance." A Trump that heals easily is scary and can rally his base around this concept that the virus isn't real. Look, it didn't affect me, which is why I initially did think maybe this is a hoax.
Right.
But then you have to think about all the other stuff where now he won't be doing rallies. He won't be whipping people up that way. Also, when Boris Johnson got it, that didn't lead to any kind of surge in support for his government. There was a poll that support started to go up, but it had started to go up before Boris Johnson got it. So I don't really know if there's enough for Trump to gain to lie about it, but I think there's a lot for us to lose if he gets over this quickly.
No, I don't think so. I think because there's too many deaths to say just because it benefited him.
But he can rally half of our country around the notion that,
you're right,
fine, and then we'll all get it because people feel more comfortable going out.
You're absolutely right, because he's got a base that wants to believe whatever he's going to say, and then he would have reason to make that argument. You're right. He's
right. On record, he's the picture of health, right? The guy looks like a rock star. He looks like Artie Schwarzenegger. So, I mean, I'm sure he's got nothing to worry about. I just wanted to ask him if he's got, instead of milk, does he got bleach? I mean, who's sending a truckload of bleach to him today? So.
A lot of people in the community already thought he had it at the beginning of this virus epidemic. Remember, he disappeared for a couple of days and you didn't see him. And a lot of people just in the street talk, and things like that. They thought he already had it, and which, because he disappeared, and everybody in the world, everybody out here in the regular world feels like he's got a super vaccine because there's all these conspiracy theories and things like that this is a man-made thing, and
Right.
and it's part of this construct within a construct to control the world, but that's what a lot of people used to think. I didn't take one position one way or another. But yeah. I do believe that it's true. I do believe that, he had to come out with this and admit it. Because there's too many people who are standing by watching it. But, it's we'll wait and see what the outcome is.
His chief of staff says he is suffering mild symptoms today. Now, that's probably, I don't know. I'm not going to make any guesses. All I know is the last thing this country needs, in October, before the most consequential presidential election of my lifetime, and who knows, maybe our history, is to have a gravely ill president, on a ventilator somewhere with Mike Pence standing in for him. I mean, that is just like I won't sleep again until January if that's the case. It was bad enough that I woke up at 3:00 last night, or this morning, I should say. Laid there for a minute, kind of, trying to get back to sleep, thought, all right, I'm just going to glance at my iPad, and saw the entire screen was full of news alerts. And I was like, oh my God. So, that's how it goes. So anyway.
The thing is I would contend that we've seen a version of Pence with George W. Bush, or Reagan, that he at least seems to respect the norms. Right. And we'd then just be talking about policy, whereas, Trump just is breaking everything.
Right.
And you can't, how do you fight that? How do you fight that? And he has an army of minions that are breaking everything that he's assigned them to.
And that's, and if the election were bearing down on us and Trump were merely sick, right, and Pence were filling in, we could not reelect. We can't elect Mike Pence. We'd have to either, but then some Republicans might think, well, he's probably going to die, or he's going to quit, or he's going to be debilitated, and I can live with Mike Pence. I don't know. I mean, that's I said.
Mike Pence would tap Don Jr. as the running mate, and then
Mike Pence can't be president because he's not on a ballot. He's in Kwameville, or not in Kwameville. He's in Kanyeville. Sorry, Kanyeville. So.
All right. Well, for now, let's move on a little bit. I mentioned the First Lady before, and of course, that was the other thing that broke before I went to bed last night, which were these there was more that her ex-best friend, she is probably, well, let me just say right now that despite testing positive, she is extremely lucky that this explosion obscured the smaller one, which involved her directly, in which her ex-best friend went on CNN and played tapes, secretly recorded tapes of Melania complaining about her lot in life. And I will try to do a dramatic reading now.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry that I'm going to probably have to, blow the explicit. We're going to end up with an E on this podcast when it goes up. Who gives a fuck about the Christmas stuff and decorations? She said to Stephanie Winston Wolkoff, her former confidant and East Wing advisor. I say that I'm working on Christmas and planning for the Christmas. And they say, oh, what about the children that they were separated? Give me a fucking break. So I should have had you do this, Violet. You're worldwide Bulgarian. I think you could have done an Eastern European accent much better. Anyway, I mean, does this mean anything, or is this just the Trump world equivalent of a lighthearted feature story that runs on the
same old game? It's the same old thing with them, and no one calls them out on it. We have a plethora of information to suggest every day, every week. You guys remember a couple months ago when I was first doing the Schmuck of the Week, and you guys had told me you can't do Trump. He's already understood to be 100% Schmuck. Him and his family, you know what I'm saying? But it's just, and I got thrown off because Craig is chiming in here with hilarious comments. Thrown off because he may be under the weather, but he's still engaged. And it's just you ask whether or not this is just that's a minute, because she doesn't factor in anywhere.
No,
she's she plays every bit of the role of a former model who is not, and I hate to denigrate models, because a lot of these models are master degrees, doctors and all these other things, which clearly she is not. So she could run for president because she wasn't born in America. Is she a lawful citizen? Well, maybe she is because she's married to a person.
She is now. She got her citizenship.
No, I know.
Years
I know
ago.
she did, but I mean, hey, why not just start the misinformation bandwagon in their chain? You know what I'm saying? It's just. But I did say, as a lawyer, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do it. So,
Joe, let me ask you, because you've been quiet. You have to understand that if you want to make your voice heard in this group, you have to jump in. You have to come in like a bull in a china shop. You have to come in like a Trump.
Yeah, like a Trumpster. All right, put on my Trump toupee.
Okay, I think you live outside this media bubble that maybe the rest of us live in. But I mean, the president's constituency are the same people who have been complaining about like the war on Christmas. And the way we elites don't respect Christmas, and to have the first lady say, "Who cares about fucking Christmas?" is just too funny.
There was two pieces to that. First, you're thinking her best friend at the time is recording her, and that's kind of harsh.
Yeah.
And then I kind of twinged on that, and then when I heard the bitterness, it's like that. We always hoped she was that nice person behind the evil monster.
Oh yeah.
But when she spoke like that, it was like, oh my God, she's sitting in the White House and she thinks like this. And the worst part about this, these are role models that kids see on TV, and whatever percentage of people actually support this guy, these kids are watching their parents not condemn that catastrophic behavior. And when you study the science behind behavioral and who we mimic, MIT has a great book. When you read and you see someone like Trump get up there and your parents don't condemn that, silence is everything. Right. Let alone these people that get up there and cheer on the orange-headed monster. I mean, it's you want to laugh, but at the same time, the legacy he's leaving a stain, not just on the sheet, but he's leaving it on humanity. I mean, the guy's
you're right.
Awful.
But why did anybody expect Melania to be nice? She married Trump for money. Like, I just don't understand why everyone's like, oh, Melania must be, because we don't hear her talk that much. Like, obviously she sucks too. Like, I just
guys are suckers.
But
you see that foreign accent. You see the cute lady on stage. She's quiet. Maybe she's just, the timid, sweet lady, and you hold out hope, and then
you're like, oh,
okay.
She renegotiated her agreement with Trump
before she'd move in. Yeah.
Someone's in a court hearing, and I'm disturbing the court hearing. I'm sorry, I'm getting excited, but every bit of Trump. She goes out. She has an agreement. What do they call it? Premarital agreement. And when she gets married, when he's about to become president, she renegotiates it. Remember, that comes out. No one talks about this stuff. Maybe MSNBC is the only station that really wants to have all the issues brought out, because they talk about the good and the bad of Trump. Whereas, Fox is just like, I think it was Craig who just put on the tagline that Fox News is finally taking this virus seriously. So, who can believe that?
Lex, you had something to say?
Yeah, it's just, I think Walt Mossberg, who used to write Recode, who used to do Recode, he posted there was I think it was in the print issue of New York Times, and he posted, and the headline after the debate was that it said, after intense heckling, right? So they characterized Trump as heckling. And it's like the worst, open mic night. What and what my response was, New York Times has had decades to figure out how to cover this guy, and they still don't know how to. They still try to cram him into the normal journalistic narrative norms that we have all grown up with, and it doesn't work.
And I think we saw that in the debates. Like, that is why those debates went the way they went.
Right. they have to change the paradigm into how they cover it. And this might be endgame, and they still haven't figured it out.
Well, I would disagree with that a little bit, but since you brought up the debate, let's pivot to the debate, as we say, because as so often happens in the world today, something that happened, on Tuesday, which when the debate happened, and we all started reacting to it on Wednesday, which was 48 hours ago. It's been eclipsed by this other huge thing coming down the road. So let's talk a little bit about the debate. Now it's been kind of Monday morning quarterback to death. But I do want to, I want to give everybody a chance to kind of weigh in on what they think might be the next step. It was only about a day later that the Commission on Presidential Debates, which is made up of journalists and the campaigns themselves, started talking about some changes that they might make so that we don't have the same situation taking place again if there's another one, given the president's health situation. Is there anything in particular beyond the obvious one, which is put a mute button on the mics? Is there any change that anyone here would like to see that you think might improve the format a little bit?
15 minutes open dialogue for two people in their 80s, one of whom, maybe they're not in their 80s yet, but one of whom talks way too much, and the other who we're trying to get in there but is feeble and no, that was done. I mean, Chris Wallace must have done that to potentially watch Biden crumble.
I think a shock collar, like the kind you put on your dog.
They hit him in the primary with 10 people.
You don't want the shock collar. That might take somebody out,
Picture if there was an internet intervention where enough threshold went up and people pushed the button, and he's out.
Yeah,
I want a soundproof room combined with the water flow from below. So
you could do what was that show? Get Smart.
Yeah,
you have the domes of silence,
right?
And they speak from the domes of silence, and then when they get out of turn, you just shut it off. And
the cone of silence, or those isolation booths they used to have on old game shows.
See, I will contend after this. Do we need debates anymore? Because debates were invented in a 3-network universe.
Yes,
and it was new and unique to be able to see the people, on their TVs, because, we had just, it was entirely print.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're just sound bites, and they're not right. Conversations, and they're all gotcha things. And I just don't know if in a world of social media and 24/7 access, if we need debates anymore.
I think you're right on that one, Lex. And where that really came home to me was during the gubernatorial debates here in Michigan, because the formats, they were so tightly constrained. I mean, I think they'd ask them a question, they'd have a minute to answer. And it's like, you're right. It was bumper stickers, catchphrases, sound bites. And you never got a sense of how, Gretchen Whitmer and Bill Schuette significantly differed on policy. I mean, they just...
Yeah, I think for candidates that actually have visions, that is a brilliant idea. But Biden is running on don't pick this guy, and this guy doesn't even know what anything he's saying contradicts the next thing. He doesn't tell the truth, so it doesn't work. And I think 15 minutes open format is great for good candidates, but we have two. No.
Well, and
I think that the debates are just platforms for the media to present these guys and them to have a forum to talk about it, but nothing's really being accomplished. But I do disagree with Violet in the fact that in this one minor issue, I think Joe Biden is trying to take the approach of having a plan going forward, different from Hillary, because Hillary's position was don't vote for this guy, and we know that doesn't work. And plus a little bit of cheating that happened, for somebody to win the popular vote by 3 million votes, I just can't get over that. She should be our president. We wouldn't be where we're at. We'd be somewhere else. But, like I said from the beginning, we asked, it's almost biblical. We asked for this king and now we have him. And this is where we're at. But I think that I think that he's trying. He can't get out of his way and just saying this guy's bad, but he's trying to push an agenda. I don't think.
How do you think that differs from, like, I mean, I guess what gives you a sense that he's doing that more so than Clinton?
Well, because he's coming out with a plan he's coming out with a more comprehensive plan on different things about the economy, the green economy, and things of that nature that he's trying to talk about creating jobs and things of that nature. And but you can't get out of the way when this guy keeps on interrupting you and doing those things that you just say, shut up, man. You know what I'm saying?
Though Joe did a good job handling. I mean, it's a monster, right? How do you argue or debate a bully? And Trump used aggressive bully tactics. And I think Joe had two choices. Do I try and show some resemblance of being tough, or do I let this bully just march over me? I mean, sure, we all wished he didn't say certain things, but Trump walks in, we see him all the time. He's ruthless. He's arrogant. He's egotistical. How do you stand up next to someone and not let him just walk all over you and say, I'm going to let this guy walk over me, but I still want to be president? Biden had to say and do something. So it was, I give him credit for that. It was a stronger Joe than I thought would show up.
You know what I'm reminded of is and this is like the most cynical thing in a 4-year period, 5-year period, really, in which so many cynical things were said. But it was Steve Bannon whose philosophy was flood the zone with shit. We're blowing out Craig's rating again, but it's true. I mean, it's like that. What these events do, particularly if you're not a hardcore political person, if you just really are that mythical unicorn of a mostly decided, but not 100% decided voter, and you just kind of want to get a sense of the guys, it really leads to that syndrome that I've seen so often lately of people saying, I don't know what to believe anymore. I can't make up my mind. Everybody's awful. And everybody isn't awful. We have, but the river of shit is flowing through the country right now. And, you were saying before, Todd, you don't ever, as a Christian, you don't ever want to wish ill on somebody. You don't want to say, I hope he dies. I hope he suffers. But that's the kind of thing that dealing with people like Trump kind of sparks in otherwise.
He created it.
He did create
this monster.
Exactly.
And, now he's got to live in it. But I disagree with you on this. I think they're full of, you said shit, so I'll say shit. Okay. People who want to say that they don't know what they're dealing with. We know the devil because he's uncovered himself. He's running around naked with his orange hair. We know it. So that's just a lie by people. Something, I'll say it this way. For Black people who support Trump, I think you're out of your mind. I believe in the spirit of Harriet Tubman. I'm going to take you out first. For white people who support Trump, they're just lying to themselves about, that he's okay, maybe grounding themselves in the fact that economically he might be somebody saleable to them, which means that they would sell their mother for the purpose of maintaining their balance sheet.
Yeah, the 401k all the time.
I feel that grounded in on this reprobate. He's a criminal in the office. He wanted to, and he's castigated everyone, tried to say Hillary was a criminal. He's been committing a crime with his real estate portfolio for the past 20 years by borrowing money and elevating the value of his properties, but yet depreciating it on the back end. I guarantee you that's what's going to be found out from those taxes.
In the past week, and we haven't even touched on it yet, we've had the tax story.
Yeah.
right. And we had Amy COVID Barrett, right? And I'm sorry, Comey, not COVID.
Comey.
He had corona.
Maybe that's right. To a viral cesspool, right?
Yeah.
She's nominated this week.
Go ahead.
It's maddening. It's just maddening.
Just before we went on, the New York Times ran a photo gallery of all of Trump's photo ops this week, when he was supposedly, infectious. And she was one of the big ones. She was in there in the Oval with her entire family. So I think she should be going to see her urgent care guy too. You bring up the
court. Right behind me, this is the real Supreme Court, the Warren Supreme Court. You see that Thurgood Marshall back there? That's the last Black justice I've seen us have. You know what I'm saying? Because this clown Clarence Thomas, I don't know where. But here's the thing: Bush Black people asked for a Black justice, and Bush gave us Clarence Thomas. It's not always black and white. I mean, it is in America a lot of times that way. But the Black guy, just like I'm not voting for John James ever. You know what I'm saying? But, and Gary Peters is as white as I can believe. But I like the guy, but it's not about color. We made a mistake asking Bush to give us a Black guy.
Yeah,
because he gave us somebody. We should ask.
And no woman was supposed to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Well,
I was saying he was only doing that because it was less likely they'd come out with a sexual harassment charge against the woman.
Well, that's true. That's given that. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about absentee ballots. They started arriving. I didn't think mine would ever get here, but it arrived yesterday. So I'm as soon as I can dive into my research on all these judges, I'll be ready to cast mine. Is anyone else here voting absentee?
I had planned on voting absentee, and I want to show up and be positive and supportive, and I don't want to be one more voice that gets cast to the stone. And you saw today, or was it yesterday, the Texas governor limited the ballot boxes to one per county.
Oh, he's got one in Houston.
In Harris County.
Yeah,
in Harris County.
The sad part is if we can vote in person, I'm all for it, but there's a huge percentage of people that are watching this news, that the aging population, they're looking at it and they're saying, I'm going to get harassed if I showed up. I'm going to get sick. I mean, this guy's playing every game out there. So we need to be a voice for those who can't show up and who are afraid.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I always go to the polls because I take my kids because I want them to know what it's like to vote and know how to vote. And so I take them. I mean, my kids aren't necessarily kids anymore. They're 15 and 12. They'll be voting soon, but I've always taken them to enjoy that experience. My wife and myself have always done that.
I've always been blessed to be in communities that have really good polling. I'm not going to have a huge line, and I've been fortunate in that way. And I always took my kids, and I like going. I'm just going to see if I'm going to get a poll working job. That would be the only thing. But I want to go out and represent on day of. So
I do have a full working job myself, so I'm going to be working in Detroit for the second time. I did two things this summer to kind of try to stop the screaming in my head and contribute to the common good of the country. And working the election was one of them. So I worked the August primary, and I've just went through training for November. So, and you need training, Lex. Tell me. I mean, since I brought that up, the other thing that I did is I signed up to be a census enumerator along with, I learned later, Lex. So everything's backwards on my screen. So you also, and that wraps on Sunday. So we will be done, although I'm pretty
It's not supposed to, but it sure looks like it is.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about briefly, let's talk about some of our experiences, because my feeling after I worked almost entirely in the city of Detroit on the east side. And my feeling is that the city of Detroit is going to be pretty severely undercounted. So what about you, Lex?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the thing, it's just, there were, I thought we were going to be like sort of contact tracers. I thought we were going to go like look for people, right?
Uh-huh.
And we were being given lists of addresses to go to, and many times they had already been like they were boarded up. Uh-huh. There was a time, I was going to a lot of places that were empty lots that the land bank had probably taken down in the last 10 years. But it was still an address that we still had to check. And I'm like, really? This didn't get taken off the list over the last 10 years. And so it was all just very disappointing. And there is unfortunately there is a culture of, don't snitch, right? Even though it's perceived in a negative, even though it's a positive, right?
We should explain to people though that how the census gathering works. Most people here probably responded to the form that was mailed out in the springtime, right? Because Census Day is in April 1st, right? Then those people who did not respond will get a follow-up visit by a human being like me or Lex. And then if they still don't respond, and there are people who sit there in their houses and simply will not come to the door. They just don't want to deal with this. Then we are empowered to ask their neighbors how who lives in that house. This is not a popular approach in the city of Detroit. People don't want to, they don't want to snitch. A lot of people are worried because they, maybe they have child support that they're not paying or a warrant or something.
Right.
And, so there's like all kinds of reasons that people have for ducking the census taker. And, when I look at some of these response rates, like Utah, I think leads the country. They're at like 99%. And
the reason why, and I'll say this, and race is an issue. Black people have never found any safety in the system. Whether the system is to count for the purposes of providing finances. I saw that the state of Michigan might lose $400 million as a result of it. I don't know if it's yearly.
Million, yeah.
Would you say, Violet?
450 million, reported this morning. The Michigan lose that much.
Exactly. So, we don't see it as that in the city. I don't live in the city, and I was one of the ones who responded in April. But again, I know what it's like because I consider myself a Detroiter. People knocking at the door who are government people or people from agents of the government. That's how we look at it, as agents from the government. And, like you said, Nancy, that no snitch, it may not be no snitch, but it's that kind of culture because here's the thing. No one's been there to protect us. There's always been something that's to follow up. So all this stuff, and this is what makes really dangerous, that thing that Dana Nessel, bless her heart, for charging those guys with that voter fraud thing, that have sent out those robocalls to all these Black people who are already distrusting of the community, who are saying that if you do and follow up and vote by mail, or you give this information to that they'll follow up and do bad credit checks. They'll cross check you for warrants and things of that nature. I can't remember the nature of the robocall, but those things resonate. Those things take heed. And if we don't have the people in place to stop it, and like I said, I'm sure if Bill Schuette was there, he wouldn't be doing anything about it. But Dana Nessel, along with some other states that have circled the wagons for those two, they're criminals. I hope they felonize them 30 times over for what they've done. But it does, it's the boogeyman is real in the community.
Right. And it's right. So many parts of government that are supposed to be just neutral, right? Whether it's child support or whatever, have been weaponized, especially against people of color. And so when the nice, friendly census people who want to get money into the city come knocking on the door, people discern it as being a threat.
There's a cultural change. There's also a larger cultural change. It's not just Black people who are that suspicious. It's everybody, but also just as polling. Political polling has had to adapt to the era of the unlisted cell phone number. We're going to have to figure out a better way to contact people other than knocking on their door, because the one thing I did learn is good news never arrives with a knock on the door. Your friends
days are
call.
done.
They call from the driveway and they say, "I'm here, go open the door," or "Come on out," or whatever. It's like if somebody is knocking, I can't tell you how many Ring doorbells I would see on kind of rundown houses where you think, why are you splurging on a Ring doorbell? Well, because you don't want to know you don't want to answer your door. And that's what happens.
Todd, what I think about all the challenges we're facing, and my son pointed this out today, talking about elections. Abraham Lincoln, back in the day, he had the Civil War going on, and he did whatever he could to make sure the voting took place. And we have that same kind of rebellion taking place today. And I think that really needs to be a rally call. We cannot let what's going on deter people from having a voice right now. And that's frightening when I think we have to use the analogy of Abraham Lincoln and the Civil War for our modern day election.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's where we're at.
All right, we need to start bringing this in for a landing. So I want to move on a little bit here. I do want to bring up one big thing for Deadline Detroit, which is the news that broke this morning that the Beaumont Health merger with Advocate Aurora in Chicago is now off. Deadline has a contributor named Eric Starkman who lives in Los Angeles, California. He used to work for the Detroit News. He has roots in Southeast Michigan. He began contributing blistering columns of opposing that merger in April. Virtually no other media outlet has followed up on this. They have simply treated this as a done deal. He has been calling on, I mean, this is like old school, like fiery Metro columnist work here. He has been calling on Dana Nessel to investigate. He's been shaming people. He's been, and it got a ball rolling. I mean, some of his best sources were Beaumont employees who, were reading this stuff and were responding to him and saying, hey, did you know about this, et cetera, et cetera. So today that merger is called off. And I think that is, as my colleague Violet said this morning, that is what you call impact journalism. So I want to at least give us some pats on the back for that. So yeah, exactly. Also, it is, there's a couple other things I want to make note of. It's Fat Bear Week in Alaska. If you want to know what Fat Bear Week is, you need to Google Fat Bear Week. It's there's a bracket of bears that are feeding on this particular river in the I think it's the Katmai National Preserve or something like that. And the bears are at their absolute fattest now because they're about to go into hibernation, but they have some great pictures of them, and you can vote on your favorite fat bear, which I suggest you should do that because we're all a little fatter after 6 months of quarantine. And finally, I think it's probably time we should get to our Schmuck of the Week. Craig, who is suffering at home, sent me an email late and said, we need his nomination is Senator Kelly Loeffler of Georgia, who this week introduced the Protection of Women, Girls in Sports Act, which is supposed to protect what we call cis women, which is to say women who are genetically female and identify as such, and protect them from trans women. Apparently, it is based on a bill that was passed in Idaho earlier this year, which would allow anyone to challenge a student's gender and force girls and women to undergo genital exams. So that is Craig Schmuck of the Week. I'm going with Mark Burnett because I read the Trump tax series this week, and I think that Mark Burnett is on my short list of maybe 5 men who are responsible for inflicting Donald Trump on it. This is, of course, the executive producer of The Apprentice, who essentially created a fantasy around Donald Trump, which the entire country sold. Anyone else? Todd?
And may I point out, he is an immigrant. He is a naturalized American from Australia. So.
Oh, he is. I thought he was British.
Yeah, but he's from one of the good countries, though.
Yeah, he's one of those. Right? He's one of those people immigrants. So.
Yeah, exactly. Does anyone else have a nominee?
I have one. I can't pronounce her last name, but her name is Kim from the Fox News, who had her assistant walk around naked and things like that.
You took mine, Todd.
She's Trump's campaign finance chair.
Yeah.
I nominate her.
We should tell, for people who didn't see that other story that broke last night about the same time as the potty mouth first lady. This was a story about how Kim Guilfoyle exited Fox News, not of her own volition, but under a cloud after they had to pay her assistant something like $4 million for sexual harassment by Kim Guilfoyle, and the harassment included the young woman being ordered to her apartment where Kim was walking around naked. She was also apparently very fond of showing. We've blown out the language waiting for this. The dick pics essentially on her phone and of men that she had slept with, and say, oh, look at this one, this kind of thing. So,
but here's the worst part about it is she did the same old Trumpian type of thing. She went back to her past. I worked in the San Francisco District Attorney's Office, the LA District Attorney's Office, and I have great relationships with women who I'm fond of and have today. She didn't answer about Fox News time, but they always throw the rock and hide their hand on that. And it's shameful. But I have one thing to ask, if the Fahle show could do this. We had this great opportunity to talk about people who are problematic to the general part of society. These are people we're talking about. I think we should have all of our nominations, but I think at some point in time, your base, I'd hate to use your base. I don't want to use that, but your fans should get an opportunity to vote who has the best pick, so we should do that. It's because we have great candidates who are just complete losers. You know,
We should have a winner, is what you're saying.
Right, yeah.
Online polling.
You're losers that are winners.
Okay.
All right. You want me to throw one in?
Okay, go on.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to try to do something sports related, and if you guys are familiar with a guy named Jason Whitlock.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so Jason Whitlock on social media yesterday did he pulled out a middle-aged black guy get off my lawn social media comment where he criticized Chrissy Teigen and John Legend for posting pictures after they lost their third baby this week on social media.
Yeah, they had a late term miscarriage or mid.
So he wrote, "I don't understand this or social media. Who takes a picture of their deepest pain and then shares it with strangers? Do other women parents want a reminder of their deepest pain, the loss of a child? Is everything just social media content? Help me understand." And the thing is that's a story. If these people had tried to keep it private, it would be on TMZ, within 24 hours, right? And that these people share, this was a high risk pregnancy, and that they are owning their story, and that they can control the distribution of it, and share their pain, and perhaps come up with a tiny little silver lining out of it. That you had somebody project just, I don't get it. And I do give him credit. He said, explain to me. And I tried to. But
right.
Social media is all just about projection, and unless you keep your mind open, you're going to miss a lot. And he missed the entire point there.
As they say in PR school, if you don't tell your story, somebody's going to tell it for you. So,
absolutely.
That's what they do.
And on that note, my schmuck of the week, Donald Trump Jr. I listened to him after the debate, and the way he just watching him talk. I mean, he looks like Donald Trump Sr., except with a different hairdo. And what really, along your note, what you were just talking about, Biden lost, and people forget this. He was in a terrible accident where he lost his wife and a child.
Mm-hmm.
And those kids grew up with the trauma of that. And so to hear Trump rip on him the way he did in that cold, ruthless way, ripping on Trump or ripping on Biden while he's got a son who actually was in the military, and Trump Jr. is defending his father, the ultimate Dodge drafter and the ultimate coward. I mean, I compare Donald Trump to the captain of the Titanic. Some serious mistakes were made. But who would you want to be on the Titanic with? The captain of the Titanic went down with the ship. Trump would be stepping over everybody, trying to load his gold and his friends on.
Throwing elbows.
I mean, mistakes happen, but how you handle it, I mean, you take risks, but Donald Trump is just, and I watched, so my schmuck of the week is Don Jr. and the way he went after Biden after Trump did it on the air.
One of these days, Don Jr. is going to get a load of coke up his nose, and he's going to have a tattoo on his forehead that's going to say, "Please love me, Daddy." So, anyway. Violet, do you have it? You were a late sub for Lane.
I tried to tune out of national politics, so I guess I would pick Bo Lefebvre, the guy who came down with the state rep who came down with COVID this week after disavowing mask wearing, and I believe he told a reporter after the diagnosis, he's like, "But I wore a mask all last week. The cases have been going up in my district, so I started wearing one."
And he's way up in Iron Mountain. So, that's pretty far off of the beaten path. So if COVID has reached that far, that should be a warning to anybody with any sense left. Yeah. So, okay. Are we, I think we're just about, we've been going at this for a while. So I'm going to, we should probably wrap this up here. Thank you all for listening, tuning in. I guess we don't say tuning in for a podcast. Exactly. Thank you. To the tiny number of our viewers who have commented on my scarves. Now that it's October, it's scarf season again.
Yay!
I don't have the Deborah Burke's catalog of scarves, nor her expertise in tying them, but it is scarf time. So that's something to look forward to for the rest of the winter. Craig, I presume, will be back as soon as he is feeling better, and I think he'll be feeling better as soon as he gets over his bout of, I believe is it syphilis, Craig? Or sure. Anyway, we're just pulling his leg. He's
drawn butter works on the crabs too. So.
Drawn butter. Wow. Okay. Thanks so much for being with us. It's been a wonderful 50 minutes or so, and join us next time. Until then, see you next week.
My name's ML Elric. I'm an investigative reporter and a connoisseur of fine yogurts. I know a little bit about Detroit. I know a little bit about deadlines, and I'm asking you to become a member of DeadlineDetroit.com. Like me, I'm not asking you to do anything I wouldn't do. I'm making a monthly donation. My wife is making a monthly donation. I know that seems redundant, but they need the money, and the money goes to a good place. Getting the story out, getting the truth out. Because if we don't support local journalism, there's some people a couple blocks away from here who are going to get away with a whole bunch of stuff that's going to cost you a whole lot more than just a few bucks out of your pocket every month. Go to DeadlineDetroit.com, become a member. You'll see it's really easy at the top of the website. Give early, give often, give generously. Just give a damn. That's the best way I know how.
The Craig Fahle Show on Deadline Detroit is sponsored by James Oliver Coffee Company at jamesolivercoffee.com. James Oliver is a second-generation family-owned and Detroit-based coffee roaster, offering 19 different blends of freshly roasted coffee. The company pioneered link temperature roasting, and they source the best beans from around the world to create an outstanding coffee experience, no matter which beans you choose. To start, try the Alma Mater blend. James Oliver Coffee gives $5 for each bag of its Alma Mater blend to the Detroit Public Schools Foundation. And don't forget, use the promo code CFSHOW, that's CFSHOW, to get 15% off your first order. James Oliver Coffee, available at select grocery stores in Metro Detroit and, of course, at jamesolivercoffee.com. Remember, use the promo code CFSHOW to get 15% off your first order. That's jamesolivercoffee.com.